Before I even started doing any kind of comedy, I actually read biographies of a bunch of comedians. What am I getting into? What does success look like as a comic, and what does it cost? Okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to do it for 10 years, and you're going to be poor, and it may not work out in the end. At the end, you may actually have nothing. How does that all sound? Well, that sounds pretty good. So in my head, I made the commitment that I'm going to do it. That has really made me very free. I don't have as many doubts.
There is no doubt. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
You don't have to be a creative person to be funny. And a creative person isn't funny. But if you're a funny creative person, in some ways it's harder. You're not using the tools the way everybody else is. Now, that can be good. You can come up with something really different, which can be really good, or something really different and it's really bad. You know?
Right.
But like for me, I have to exercise that drive. It's almost like I have an organ. It's like a creativity organ.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And if I don't expend the creative juice, it's like poisoning me.
Yeah. You're
like
morphing from a lightsaber into a fart.
Yeah.
Can you show us? Welcome everyone to the OG Pod. Today I have my friend from comedy, Alden Schaub.
Hello, Internet.
What's up, Internet? Alden is a comedian here in Austin, Texas, who I've known for over a year now.
Yeah.
And you run some of the best mics out here at Lucky Duck on Wednesday nights from, what is that, like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m.?
Yeah. Well, now that we're doing the tag mic, before it does go from like 6:30 to 2.
You got Lucky Duck mic, you've got your trivia business, and a couple other mics. Tell us about your story and what you're doing here in Austin.
I don't know. Entertainment, I guess. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty crazy to be down here right now, comedy wise. But
there's so many people moving here.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's been a flow for years since Rogan started that whole trend, I feel.
Oh yeah, I think it's great. I mean, just to be able to see the variety of people that are doing it too. But when I moved down here, I didn't really know I'd be doing comedy. I wasn't even doing comedy at the time. I just my brother wanted to move down here because he wanted to meet some women.
There you go.
And we're from a small town in Traverse, Michigan, and so there just wasn't a lot of dating, Yeah. So he's like, "Well, we should move to Austin. There's a dating site, and the number of people in the site is more than our entire town." So I'm like, "Well, okay." And I was single at the time too, so like, okay, I guess that makes sense. So we just drove down here. I mean, and that's about it.
How'd it work out?
So far, it's been pretty good. I mean,
there are some pretty girls in Austin, that's for sure.
Yeah. I've got a girlfriend now for like 3 years, so that's pretty good. And well, my brother, he ended up moving back, but I ended up staying. So
to Traverse. Nice. I'm from Grand Rapids, so.
Oh yeah, that's so. Yeah, I went to school at Grand Valley, so.
Nice. Okay,
yeah.
I know right where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michigan's a unique state because it's like up north. It's almost Canada.
Yeah,
it's in the Midwest. You have the accent. You're a little bit close to New York, but still, nobody's from Michigan. It's a rare find.
Well, people ask me a lot if I'm Canadian, and I just go, yeah, just whatever. Basically. I mean, it doesn't matter,
If you're at the UP, that's Canada.
Yeah, that's something totally different.
The Upper Peninsula.
Well, and like, I don't know. I just got tired of working all those seasonal jobs too. I seemed like I was falling into that a lot.
Yeah. So you came out here to meet some girls and what got you into entertainment?
Well, I was doing trivia back in Michigan, but I worked for a different company. It was just called Team Trivia of Michigan. So I was doing like 4 shows a night for like another company.
So you were already in entertainment?
Yeah, in a way. I mean,
hosting and
yeah, because I hosted the games I had them like 4 nights a week. So like I got pretty good at hosting trivia. And then when I moved down here, well, my first job I had was working at a pawn shop, and I did that because I thought that would be interesting. And it was interesting.
How many human heads? What is the craziest shit that people turned in?
It was really depressing, honestly. Well, yeah, okay, really? So mostly guns, jewelry.
Really, guns?
Yeah, well, guns are.
I would imagine jewelry.
Yeah, jewelry, guns are nice because they really hold their value. Like
the worst shrunken heads. No.
Yeah, like shrunken heads would be really hard to resell. Is the only thing. So like, yeah, they have like a value, but it's also like, who's the buyer? But like guns are like, it's going to hold the value. A lot of people want them. So like you have no trouble reselling them. And if you have them on the shelf for a period of time, they don't lose their value. Yeah. Where like if you were to buy an iPhone or something,
right,
there's like a short shelf life. A lot of people don't want to use a used phone.
Right.
So it's really hard to resell. So like you'll never see that in a pawn shop. So like, yeah, swords, you would think swords are kind of unusual, but again, they hold their value. Specialty coins, really anything made out of gold or silver, they'll buy it.
Weapons.
Yeah, like
jewelry.
throwing stars, knives, anything like that. But probably not like grenades or something. That'd probably be too dangerous. But
And
yeah.
so, what was your first time doing stand up?
Well, it's here. Well, so one time in college, I did one at the Bob actually in Grand Rapids.
Oh yeah, the Bob.
Yeah, just I did an open mic on a kind of a lark, and I just kind of forgot all about it.
Isn't that a club? They have mics there.
Yeah,
It's
and
got 2 levels.
I don't know if it's the third floor. One of them they actually had like just an open mic once in a while,
Cool.
but I think it was regular. It's like more like a regular comedy club,
Oh,
or at least it was at the time. I don't know, but I don't know what it is now. But so my first one here in Austin was at Cherrywood, which is not that far from here actually. But yeah, I signed up for 3 minutes.
so what got you into doing the mic at the Lucky Duck? Because that's like a staple of Austin, I feel.
Oh yeah. Well, there was a guy named Marty who used to run it when he moved here, and then he ended up leaving town. So then he had some different shows going, and he's like, "Well, you've been running this one more or less. It's yours now."
There you go.
And then there was another show Ian John was running at Baker Street, and then like, "Okay, well that's yours now." And then so now I've just been running it because they used to bring 3 hosts in a night.
Yeah,
They'd have
sure.
like 8 to 10 guy. They'd have like a midnight to whatever guy. But I was like, well, I just want to sit here and practice writing jokes for like between the guys' sets. So I'll just do all the 6 hours and just see. And
That's a long time to do a mic.
yeah, well, it is kind of stupid in some ways. Well, I mean, like, there's a lot of
It's
things.
cool. It's a service.
Yeah, well, I do view it as sort of a utility. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody can benefit from it. I mean,
absolutely.
it's strange to think it's some people's first mic, which is nice.
Is it? I mean, it's an open mic, right? Like it's
Yeah.
usually comics there.
Mhm.
Do you get crowds much, or
Oh yeah, I think
yeah?
it's about half and half. Well, there's a lot of
Oh,
foot
that's pretty good
traffic
ratio.
on 6.
Yep.
So yeah, I get regular people in there quite a lot.
Yeah. What are the other places you like out here to perform or hang out?
Well,
Comedy-wise?
I really like the Anderson Mill Pub. That one's good on Tuesdays, and then I really like the Banana Phone mic that's at the Creek on Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, and that one too, I can sit there and I'll be in the crowd and I'm watching the person and I'm writing down little details about them, and then I'll write out my heckles, and I'll wait for a time where there's a little bit of silence and I'll try to, hit them with it.
Nice.
That one is really fun, I think.
You have like a lot. You're a very prolific comedian, actually,
Well,
because you
thanks.
have you do stuff on social media. You're
Mm,
doing these open mics. You're actually doing comedy. You're
sure.
participating a lot in the community.
Well, and I bartend at the East Austin Comedy Club on the weekends, so there's that, and then I get a little bit of time, and so, yeah, I do think about like,
Because you do daily jokes, right? Like,
yeah,
I feel like I've seen you be very consistent on coming up with like, I don't know, 4 to 10. You know.
well, yeah. So there's this thing called the Hot Breath Writers Room, and every
Oh,
day they put a word out, and you're supposed to just sit there for 10 minutes and try to write jokes based on that word.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I try to do that as I don't. I mean, I haven't done it every day, but I really try to do that every day. So
What
like,
was today?
today's work was satisfy.
Satisfied.
So I had to write some jokes about satisfy. So one of them I wrote was Snickers satisfies, but I'm the only, or Snickers satisfies your hunger, but I'm the only one who can satisfy your mom's hunger.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that's like just a silly one, but like
Yeah,
that's so as you're right,
on
you
the
just
fly, it's pretty good.
yeah, so like I try to I'll post the ones that I consider jokes, but there's some that I write and they're not even jokes. I'll just like cross them off.
Okay.
But just doing that every day, I think, is important. I mean,
Builds that practice up. I haven't done comedy in so long. I'm not a real comedian. I do stuff on YouTube, but I
nothing
do
wrong with YouTube.
I do enjoy the scene, and I don't know. It's one of these things where it seems like there's so many people doing it, and it's hard to understand what kind of outcomes are really possible
Mm,
in
mm,
terms of like time investment, because the last thing you would want to do is like go attack something for 10 years
sure.
and then like you're in the exact same place you were 10 years ago.
Mm,
And there's it's one of those things where you're working in an industry where you have to rely on other people lifting you up. Like you can't, there's no job of being that you can apply to or whatever. You're 100% reliant on somebody kind of plucking you out.
I don't.
You don't think
know.
so?
I don't think
Well,
that's
you can
really
start
the
your own
case
mics.
today. Yeah. Well, I don't know. My feeling is like nobody's gonna open up the opportunities for you in this. You have to do it for yourself. Like, excuse me. Well, and two, like people get into comedy for thousands of reasons. Like they just fall into it. They think it'd be fun. They do it on a kind of a lark, and then they get going on it, and then they're like, well, okay. And then as they're in it for a period of time, they're like, where's this thing going?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and that's when people start to get. I've seen people be very frustrated or very bitter at a certain point. Again, I'm a new comic though, so maybe that'll happen to me. But like, I don't know. Before I even started doing any kind of comedy, I actually read biographies of a bunch of comedians,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of like,
Prime it.
well, like, what am I getting into?
Right.
What is this? Like, what does success look like as a comic, and what does it cost to be a
Yeah.
success? And like, and the same story is though they all have the same story. They were a 10-year overnight success,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and they were working in obscurity for that entire time and in poverty, basically.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there are some exceptions, but mostly, and then they were discovered or some event happened and they, you know, were catapulted into whatever.
But that's
So,
how it goes. Like, there's no rising through the ranks automatically. You have to be selected by the upper echelon. There's no, because there's no organization. You know, it's just
yeah,
other comics hiring you.
but it's, things have changed, I think, because
Have
like in my opinion, like, well, if you look at Andrew Schultz, he always talks about you're putting out your material to your fan base, you're getting your fan base, and then you turn around and ask to be put on things.
Well, but you can't get a fan base without exposure. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I'm facing two chicken and the egg problems, so now all of YouTube has to hear me gripe about it.
Okay.
You
let's see.
guys. And the two chicken and the egg problems are comedy and YouTube.
Mhm.
Where when I look at my stats, I mean, my retention, it's about on average, it's at least on average, if not above average for YouTube.
Sure.
But my videos never get recommended because I have no audience.
Mm.
And it's like one of those things where like the only way to get recommended is to have an audience.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like a total chicken and the egg problem. Like the only way to anyway, in the end, there's nothing to really complain about because, you know, the joy is in the work itself, and that's its own reward.
Well,
But
how are you delivering?
you do want outcomes. Yeah, right.
Well, how are you delivering value to the YouTube? I guess.
I mean, I would assume it would be entertainment value is what I'm trying to provide.
Sure.
Similar to other,
So,
you know,
like,
people I'm modeling.
putting together the video is kind of the minimum, you know,
Right.
and there's got to be a certain level of entertainment value there.
Right.
I mean, there doesn't have to be, you know, you can put anything on YouTube.
Well, it could be educational. It could be, but like if you want to have a good retention rate, they have to want to stay on the video.
Right. So, like, for instance, the reason the Lucky Duck exists is because I sell drinks. So, like, without that, there wouldn't be an open mic. Like,
Okay.
they would put in. So that's the value I'm delivering to the bar. The value I'm delivering to the comedians is the stage time. That's why they're
Right.
there, you know. So without that, like, you can set up a mic, and if nobody shows up, they're gonna get
Right.
rid of it.
Right.
So it's same with YouTube. Like, you have to think, well, where's the value to the viewer? Like, obviously, we like doing podcasts. It's fun, you know. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be on a podcast today. That's great.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about the Austin comedy scene and all that, which is like, that's valuable to a certain number of people.
Right.
But then it's like, what would be something that everybody on the internet would be like, oh, this is really worth.
Crypto. Let's talk about Trump.
Yeah.
Let's talk about FTX.
Well, and people like that. That's like the thing that hooks them into listening to it. But I also think people get tired of it after a while. Like I used to listen to this podcast called it was the Mad Fientist, and all he would talk about was trying to attain financial freedom, and like they call it FIRE in the community. So like, you know, financial independence, retire early. That's like a big thing. So then he would interview like people that had attained FIRE, as they call it, and they were like 50 or 60. So I got a lot of value out of that. I was listening to it and I thought, well, that could be me. All these stories are different, and it's interesting. So like I feel like I got some value out of that.
I think the value I'm trying to provide, and I think I do provide by the numbers. Like if my retention is on average with everyone else, then I'm providing the average amount of value. Is entertainment value is the majority of it.
That makes sense. Well, like for me, putting out, so I write those jokes every day. I used to put them in my story on Instagram, but I realized only my current followers are seeing that. You could see that based on the statistics. You know? So then I started turning them into reels because really I'm trying to advertise outside of
Exactly.
you know, that I'm a comedy writer or whatever.
Right.
You know, so that was like.
Did you get some traction on those or?
Sort of like on
hit
Instagram.
and miss, right?
Yeah, like on Instagram I was getting like not a lot of views. But I noticed on TikTok, like I'll have maybe only a couple hundred for certain ones, and then all of a sudden I'll get like 5,000 or something.
Nice.
So like they are starting to get a little bit of traction.
Nice.
So, but I don't know.
I mean, I think the whole content game is just consistency, because there are more people getting connected to the internet every day. There's a huge tailwind of people in India and in the third world, and they've got to learn English and watch content or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's great to be an English speaking content creator, like specifically.
That sure helps, I think.
It's an advantage. It is an advantage, unfairly, but.
Well, and the only reason I'm making like sketches or something is because I think it's funny. And also, but I want to, it's an advertisement to get people to come to a live show. And that's where I could actually make money.
Yeah. But yeah, you got to be providing value.
Yeah.
And so like, that's a good way to break it down with the Lucky Duck. You have the value to the establishment in selling drinks. You have the value for the comics in stage time. And so it's like the invisible hand of capitalism can work and everyone benefits from that. And the same thing I think can happen on YouTube, where you're building an audience. They're getting value from your entertainment, you're getting value from the ad revenue, and it works. But these are such chicken and the egg problems, which is why nobody really does that, even attempts them, because it is such a 10-year overnight grind, or whatever you were saying. Like, even if it looks like an overnight success, it wasn't. It was a 10-year grind.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing trivia in pretty much obscurity for that period, and I still enjoy it. I just do it because I like it, you know.
And that's the main thing. As long as you're doing things that you're genuinely enjoying.
But also, I never had an idea that I would become a famous trivia host. Like, that's not even a thing. I think people feel that way about comedy. They're like, well, everybody's got a different goal, I guess. Like, a lot of people, they're like, well, I'd like to be famous and I'm up here or something. I don't know. When I started doing it, my goal was I'd like to be an entertainer for a living. And so I'm getting pretty close now as far as getting enough money. So that feels good. I mean,
that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
There's that puts you in the top 1% of people on the planet, right? Like, nobody is making money doing what they love.
Sure.
And I feel really lucky because I've made money in tech doing what I love. And so I got lucky once. And if I could ever do that in entertainment, that would be the luckiest thing of all time.
Well, you can. I think a lot of people could. Again, it's like, where are you delivering value to the comedy? Like, as a comedian, I always think when I'm doing my material, like, do people want to consume this even?
Right.
You know, like sometimes I'll watch a comic and I'll be like, oh, well, it's pretty funny, but like people feel like they need a shower after this. Like, and sometimes that's exactly what people want. And sometimes they're like, it's not really a product in a sense.
Yeah. It's a product that you're building. Yeah. Your comedy is a product. And it's hard to build, like this podcast. I'm hoping that anyone listening is just enjoying this conversation and maybe getting some insights into the Austin comedy community. And what I'm trying to do is provide new and upcoming comics here in Austin, just like me, or entertainers, or anyone, like, really, but like some value in just being able to express their ideas and talk about what they're into. And then, boom, here, I'll do some work to put it online and make it packaged and presented or whatever. But like, that value has to be 50 to 100 times higher than your competitors really to break through. So it's such a again, do you call it a challenge? Because the whole thing is play. Yeah. It's a challenging game.
Well, and two is, you do a bunch of them, you'll start to realize where people are enjoying it and all that. Like, I like doing sketches. I mean, I used to watch Mad TV all the time. So like, I always think I'm trying to make Mad TV in a sense. But those sketches I don't think people would pay to watch them. Yeah. But so then I viewed it as just an advertisement for myself. And that's the end of it.
That's true too. Yeah. But people do pay to watch them with their time.
Yeah, that's true. In that sense.
And one of the crazy things is how fast you can accrue watch time. Like, this podcast will get 5 hours easy, and that's nothing. You know, like, I'm sure you get like a top tier podcast and they're getting, I don't know, 10,000 hours of watch time or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some strange things going on. Like, I've been creating these original fart noises. And like, when I first started doing that.
Fart engineering. Yes.
Yeah. And like, I sort of thought of it as just like, oh, this is just a silly thing I'm doing. But it is. But I applied some of the structures of jokes to those noises, so it is something that's like unique. And so I'm gonna try to continue to push that to see what else I can do with it, I guess.
I liked what Jimmy Clifford had to say on repeating anything creative. How it's like when you turn on a faucet that's never been used or hasn't been used for a long time. You have kind of like this muddy water coming out, and if you just let it keep running, eventually the water becomes clean. And I think that's very similar to anything creative, where there's no way to have something creative come out beautiful the first time, because it's just built on layers and layers and layers. It's like a painting.
Yeah.
And you just build it slowly over time. And that's what I think a lot of any creative pursuit is. So hopefully your farts are like paintings, is all I'm trying to say.
I hope so, but well, and I had an insight though.
Like
anybody can play off some farts and it's like kind of funny. But it's not the same thing as what I'm doing, because I'm using a structure of joke to make these noises,
Is there a structure to it? Like, how do you structure a fart? This is very important.
Well, so like, okay, so like if you have the basic joke, you got your premise and you have like your punchline, okay? So the way these farts are set up is like the noise in the beginning is a noise you're familiar with. So it's almost like an idiom. It's an auto, like you've heard the noise before. So like a good example would be like a Star Wars, like a lightsaber opening.
I see.
So you've heard that before, and when you hear it, you have a sense of recognition.
Right.
So you got to have that in the beginning, and then and then it cuts into a fart, but then the fart sounds similar to the first noise, and so then
you're like morphing from a lightsaber into a fart.
Yeah.
Can you show us any of this, or like, can you play us any of this?
Yeah, I got them on my phone here. I got them. Let me show you one as an example here.
There is very few people that have put this much thought into the structure of a fart, and I'm here for it. I appreciate it.
I think they're pretty funny. I'll have to send you this after. Let me see let me get the lightsaber one. This is a good example because, like, there's somewhere in your brain where you've heard this before a bunch of times. And then, so I'll play it here. I don't know if it'll pick it up, but.
Okay, now I got you.
Now I got you. See what I mean? So, like, if it's just any fart, it wouldn't make sense.
Right.
But it's like you're hearing the first part, and then once it cuts into that other noise, that's where the subversion of expectations is.
I feel like you need something at the end, though, like a splat or a pop.
Sort of.
Maybe like a platter or whatever a splatter.
Like, this is a good one. You're a fan of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought this one was about the funniest here. You're a wizard, Harry. Like, nobody's expecting that,
Yeah. What do you do with these? I mean, you use them at Lucky Duck?
Yeah. So at Lucky Duck, I use them during the trivia shows. A lot of times a sketch, if somebody swears, I'll put a fart over it instead of a bleep. Yeah. But that's like where I'm at with it now. But like. So then I'm like, well, that's not finished. There's more to do with it, but I don't know what it is yet, because my understanding of comedy is only at a certain level. So like, as I progress, I'm hoping those noises will progress and there'll be more to it. And there may not be, but
elegant
I don't know.
Farts. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get some rich.
Well, and a fart can be a very good surprise. A lot of it's based on surprise, but I wouldn't have come up with this idea without looking at the structure of jokes. Like, so that they did kind of like collide.
There's a lot of technical aspects into joke telling that you don't really think about, like when you're like, I'm going to go do stand up. And basically what you're saying is like, I'm going to go try to recite some stuff I wrote down on stage.
Sure.
Good luck.
But if you're not using the language of stand up, you're in trouble. And there are some basic things that really make a big difference.
Context is a big one that I've still kind of struggle with, but even just in terms of creating anything for an audience, you need to try to guess how much context they have, how much you need to provide.
Well, that's like when I write trivia question, a good question is something I can say and everybody understands immediately what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same with a joke premise. You say the premise and you look out into the faces. Do they understand what you're talking about?
Right.
Are they on the same page with you? Like, maybe they're not. So then if you see a look of confusion or a look of, then you got to redo your premise or repeat it. Or so like there's a problem there.
Or just add something to it. But if you're too nervous and you're not paying attention to the audience, then you're not going to catch that and you're just going to be presenting at them.
Yeah.
Which is easy to fall into that.
Well, that's why the news is real popular, because it's easy to understand. Everybody's thinking about it already, so you can talk about it.
Right.
Where like an idiom is really easy because it's a piece of information they already have. So
What's an idiom? It's like a story that we all know,
Well,
like
you could
a
say,
fable or
well,
like a
I have this one joke that I do, and it's you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right?
yeah,
So like that would be like an idiomatic expression.
right,
So I mean, most English speakers have heard that before.
right.
So
That
you don't have to
that
explain.
expression, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Or if you say one in the hand's worth two in the bush, you've
Right,
heard that before. That would be like an idiom.
right.
So you'll hear
Fuck that
those.
bush. I want two birds right now.
Yeah, and so like people will make a joke about that using the idiom because the idiom's like the common thing, and then that's the jumping off to your idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, right. And that brings context because everyone knows
Right.
the idiom.
Yeah, so like if you're doing a joke to a crowd, you should try to get everybody to understand the thing as soon as they can, and
Yeah.
so that's like why you cut out a lot of the language too, because everybody's brains move at different speeds, and some people are drunk and some people are high or whatever,
Right.
and so
Distracted.
so you want them to all understand the thing at the same time.
Yep.
So then you can get, and that's challenging for a whole group of people. I mean,
But that's what makes the room energy awesome is when you can just feel that everyone is in the same place and we're all following the conductor. And then that guy takes us somewhere fun and awesome and hilarious. Or sometimes he drives it right off the cliff. You know?
oh right, or it's too bad, or they didn't understand part of it, or who knows, or like two people will laugh and no one else is laughing, and then they're like, why is that funny?
I've told this story on this podcast, so I doubt I have any listeners who will catch it again. But I remember going to the creek. This was a couple of months ago, and this guy was just telling this horrible story about trapping somebody in their basement and eating them alive. And the whole time, I'm just sitting there waiting for it to change. And he's like going into the most gruesome detail about how she's crying and he's loving it. And he starts by eating her feet and then he like eats her arms and all that. I mean, it is kind of funny, but it's also gruesome and horrifying. And the whole time I'm just waiting for the punchline. And then he just walked off the stage. And I was like, that is epic. You're just going to leave us all with that.
Sure.
You're just going to leave that image and not, spring it back, not make it into a punchline or a joke or anything. And he just left us there in that feeling. And I was just like, well, that's one way to do it.
Sure. Well, you saw something there that stood out in your mind.
Yeah.
Well,
Right. Actually, good point.
Some of the jokes I do that I don't think are that good, people will say, oh, well, that's the one I think is the best.
Right.
They'll be like, why was that? Or just some throwaway thing.
But it has to connect with people.
Yeah.
And so much of it is about connection and feedback. And I think comics and YouTubers actually get basically a superpower compared to regular people. And it's because people are always telling them what they're doing wrong constantly. Nobody gets that level of feedback. No. Everyone knows what you're doing wrong, but they're not going to tell it to you.
Sure.
You're just, like they're just going to think it. But on YouTube, you get a comment that's like, you're not doing this. And if you did that different, and you're like, well, that's amazing because now I can actually do it different. Like I posted a workout video where I was like benching and somebody was like, you're literally going to rip your shoulder off if you keep your elbows that way. And I was like, okay, let's Google it and see what this guy's talking about. Turns out to be totally accurate. I go back, repeat the movement with my elbow tucked in, feels way stronger, way better. And had I never created that video, had I never posted it off, and had that guy never been an asshole, I would have just kept doing it wrong until I ripped my shoulder off.
Sure.
And so that's, I think, a superpower that comedians and content creators get is they're constantly getting feedback. Like, here's the feedback when you're on a stage. Nobody's paying attention. So whatever you're bringing, they're not interested, Like, that's valuable feedback. That means that whatever road you took to get on that stage and how you presented it, how you dressed or your opening line or whatever, if people take out their phones, that's it. That wasn't the right one. And so you try another one. But through all of those repeated feedbacks, that is how you kind of like perfect yourself, basically. Because how do you make a Dave Chappelle? Did you see his SNL monologue?
Oh no, I haven't watched it yet.
It's so smooth. It's I want to say retardedly smooth, but I won't because that's like a bad word now. And so it's like absurd how well it flows, how funny it is, and how cool and calm he is delivering it. And I'm just like, well, that's impossible. Like maybe in 20 years, if you do it every day forever, you can get like to some kind of close level like that. But
well, it takes a long time. I mean, like I keep a spreadsheet of all the shows I've done, and so like For comedy, I'm coming up on like 900.
900. That's awesome.
And that's mostly open mics and mostly hosting, but then there's sprinkled in there a few showcases. So like I feel like I'm not even getting started. Like,
Yeah.
the first couple 30 mics or something, I thought I was just like the best. And then as I've watched more people, I'm like, oh, I got a lot more to learn.
There are pros.
Yeah.
There are pros. It's not it and so what makes somebody like Dave Chappelle a pro? Because he's like presenting that and it's coming across on TV.
Mhm.
It's even easier if you're in a live setting to like have that energy be translated. It's not even energy, it's just coolness. He's just fucking cool.
Well, and I noticed something. So this was this Wednesday, I did a special show at the Lucky Duck where I just had all the guest hosts come in and do 10 minutes in front of a camera. So I had kind of a small crowd because it was cold,
Mhm.
but I noticed some of the comedians were sort of distracted by the cameras. They were more reserved. It did
Mhm.
change the way they presented. And then I also know I made a big mistake, and I didn't realize this at the time. But so if you look where the stage is like this, and you know how it's like down at the Lucky Duck,
Mhm.
one of the camera guys was sitting on this bench right in front of everybody, and then the other guy was on the side. And I think people were a little bit like more reserved
Of course.
because they felt like they were interrupting something, like whereas if it was not being recorded, it was more interactive. So like I feel like I blunted the reaction of the crowd. I mean, there was weather and all that, and it was a small crowd, but like people were watching this and they were like, "Oh, I don't want to disturb this." But so and
Have you heard of that phenomena of people when they get on a recording they change?
sure, I think that's true.
And so it's hard not to get self-conscious. I remember I had this the other day. I haven't experienced this in years because I've been out there, man.
Sure.
So when I used to work at Snap and I used to run this big scary meeting. It was a Thursday meeting where like all the big execs would show up and sometimes the CEO would be there. It was pretty nerve-wracking because it was like at least 100 people every single time and I was the guy on point. And what's funny is like that was part of what made me think I could do stand-up. Because I was like, hey, I run this big meeting in front of all these important people. I can handle being on a stage. Doesn't translate at all. Doesn't translate.
Yeah, well, there's certain aspects of it. I mean, if you're able to run a meeting there, you have a certain level of extroversion, I guess.
Yeah. And so, well, so I guess the point of it, why was I even telling you that I had a meeting? I used to run that. Oh, yeah. And so I used to get so nervous on this Thursday meeting. And like my whole week was revolve around it. Like I would start preparing for it on Friday. Sure. Literally. And I would get like this crazy feeling. Then the other day I was about to go live on a podcast and out of nowhere that same old panic hit me where it kind of felt like my heart was racing and I just had like this self-consciousness that was like so pronounced. And I have not experienced that in so many years. I'm still not sure quite why. I mean, I was able to recover. It was fine. But sure. It was still just a surprising feeling because I do feel like I'm such a practiced hand being recorded, being on camera, going on running meetings, going on stages. And I've grown to be more comfortable just, in the moment or whatever. But in that moment, it was the opposite. I was freaking out.
That makes sense,
Yeah. That was the dolphin. That's a fucking dolphin. Can we hear that one more time? That was crazy.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's a mating call right there.
Yeah, I got my Australis in there. But, well, I tell you, when I get a little nervous or something, I just remind myself that life is meaningless,
Yeah.
So then that helps,
Yeah, we're all going to die. Yeah, tomorrow. So just go do whatever you want.
Well, and we're so concerned with ourselves. Obviously, I think even comedians is worse. But honestly, most people don't care. I mean, they're sort of like paying attention. But if you're confident, that's what matters, I think, on that stuff. And they don't know. Well, especially in comedy, like I've noticed. I feel like a bad habit is if you make a mistake on a joke or if you misspeak. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I screwed that up," and they'll verbalize it, and they'll know. Well, they don't know if you made a mistake.
Right, I was gonna say you gotta like you should only verbalize it if that's turning it into a joke.
Right, if you're gonna trick them, But like, if I make a mistake or I miss a punchline or something, generally I just won't even address it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just feel like that's a bad habit. Well, the same with running a meeting or something. They don't know what you're there to talk about.
Right.
I mean, if you just seem like you're rambling a little bit, maybe they'll. But honestly, they don't.
everyone feels like everyone else is so focused on them. Everyone's just focused on themselves.
Yeah. Unless you're up there on the stage and they're staring at you and they're like,
And then the pressure's on.
yeah, but if I mean, like tonight, I'm gonna go up at the East Austin Comedy Club, and I pretty much have an idea what I'm gonna do.
Yes.
And if something happens, or if one of the curtains falls down or something, I'll just be like, well, whatever. I mean, that's
Yeah, just incorporate it.
yeah. Or there's always something to joke about if somebody like that's another thing I've noticed. You know, it's live, so you'll see a comic and somebody will say something, and they view it as sort of an interruption. Well, I don't. I view it as like, well, they're here. This is a live show. They're part of the show now.
Right.
So just that to me makes it easier because like if I don't even view it as being derailed or something.
Yeah.
That's just statistically going to happen so many times you go up. I mean,
Well, it's almost like you can look at it in one way, which is like you can get angry about it and you can be like, they're disrespectful or they're not paying attention. Or you can look at it as something to play with. And this is just like, or you can ignore it or whatever. But
well, nobody owes you their attention, even if they bought tickets or whatever. Like you have to earn that. Like
totally.
But I feel like people that are good hosts are better able to like handle those situations.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm biased on that.
Well, sometimes I just know like you get mad. It's easy to get angry at the audience and start like getting not offensive, but like aggressive.
Sure, like you're prickly or you're getting after them.
Even just your body language.
Yeah, you're like.
Mm-hmm. Or you'll like get close to them on the stage. You'll walk over to them, or like.
Sure.
It's a weird adversarial. There's kind of like a conflict between the performer and the audience in a weird way. And I don't think that's two ways. I don't think the audience feels in conflict with the performer, but I think the performer does feel somewhat attacked by the audience or outnumbered, maybe. Because obviously,
to me, that's a philosophical choice to view them as the adversary. You can view them as anybody who's
friends,
anybody who's in the sphere of my microphone is part of the show, and whatever happens is part of the show.
Yes.
So I don't view anything that happens as an intrusion.
Right.
Philosophically, that's different than viewing them as like it's a conflict.
So what are you thinking as you're walking onto a stage? Like, are you trying to just be in the moment? Do you have your material primed? What's kind of going through your head?
I pretty much have my material ready. So like tonight, I'll probably open the show. So I have certain things I got to talk about, like where the bathroom is and not to record the show and just in this and that. Then I'll do some kind of open. Are you guys ready to get going? But like as the host of the show, the job is to like
bring the energy.
Like, thank you for coming. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a lot of fun. And then I'll do a short set. But I've already so I've written down all my like bits that I want to do. And then I'll just leave the paper, and I don't usually use notes. So then I'll just go and but I've done I'm not like tonight I won't do any new stuff. It'll all be stuff that I've done before, And then if somebody gets me off topic or something, I'll just go for it. Like there was a couple one week and I found out they had been to they were from Kentucky or something. So then I remember I had a family trip. We went to Kentucky. So like I actually talked about that for the first like half of my time, just at my whatever. So like that was very in the room, I think that's important because the people want it to seem like it's a one-off. This is the only show that's ever going to take place, and this is like really exciting. We should,
right. You do want to kind of bring that vibe. I mean, it is right. It's never going to happen again in that exact circumstance, in that exact set and setting with those people and that energy.
Yeah, and like one of the things I'll say if I'm opening the show there, I'll go, "Hey, no recording of the show. This is just for you guys. This is just for you. This is and these are secret jokes, and." We want to make sure the comics are very free to express themselves in that. So then they think, oh, hey, this is like, okay, that was worth me coming down here. This is only going to happen once. I mean,
do you think comics are restricting themselves?
Some do and some don't. I mean, I think to myself, well, I don't know who these people are, and I want to have my material be something that they want to consume. Right. I think other people, they have the idea, I'm an artist and this is my art, and if you don't like it, never come back. And that's a completely good attitude too.
Is it? I think it's bad. I kind of have that attitude, but I think your attitude is better.
Well, it just depends. Like again, I host a lot, so my thought is always I want people to stay. Where the comic is like, I've come to say X,
Yeah.
and this is it. And if you don't like it,
Interesting.
then too bad. Like,
Right.
but neither
One's
of
trying
those.
to do a good show and connect and have the audience have a good time,
Yeah.
but that's why it's a better, mindset or
But then too, I feel like there's certain topics I won't touch on as the person who's trying to be generally like entertaining. So like in a way, it's like more watered down in a way.
I guess.
But the
Yeah.
person who's really a purist is gonna just this is what I'm doing, and then they'll gather fans that really like that.
Yeah. But there is like a major selfishness in that, which is that you're not on the stage for them. You're on the stage for you.
Right, you're there for yourself as that comic.
But ideally, you should be on the stage for everyone, and it's everyone enjoying it as like a fun thing, you
Well,
know.
but later on, you're gonna just have your fans.
I
But
don't know.
when you're
Yeah.
starting out, you just whoever's there, and the half of them don't like you. Well, that's fine. Those other people won't follow you. You know.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I guess there's no wrong way to do it in
Yeah.
that way.
Because I'm always thinking of it as a show. So I'm
Hmm.
always thinking about I want these people to stay for the whole thing.
Hmm.
But as the individual comedian, you don't care about that. You're like,
Hmm.
I want to get the fans, the people who like me are going to like me, and that group will slowly grow. And everybody else, they're not going to watch me anyways. So why do I want to cater to them? If they're here, I don't care. And they'll say, "Oh, you don't like it? Fine. These guys really like
Okay.
it."
Here's why selfish, because comedy rooms, like when you have a show,
True.
that show has an energy.
Yeah.
And if you're the one bringing down the energy, tanking the room, being selfish,
Yeah.
like it's not only not fair to the other comics and the audience or the showrunner or I mean whoever the host. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
Well, you just don't have them back.
right. But that's why it's important to consider everyone as much as you can because there is an energy and a vibe from one comic to the next.
Yeah.
And you can't just like comic A comes up with like maybe spastic high energy, maybe like whatever, just like a high energy person, and then the next guy is like really low energy, really mellow, just sitting on the stool. And you can't just like go from one to the other. It's too abrupt. You have to bridge it.
Well, that's what the host is supposed to do. But
Is the host supposed to bridge it? So the host keeps the energy consistent and steady in the room, the vibe. Yeah, the host sets the tone.
well, yeah, a good host will make it set the next guy up for success.
Right.
And try to balance things out. But I mean, some shows don't even have a host. Really, they just go to the next guy. It just depends. I mean,
What are some of your favorite stories from working here in Austin? How long have you been here now? 2 years, 3 years? You said.
I lived here like 4, and
4?
I've
Okay.
been doing comedy now for like a little under 3, I guess.
Okay. So what? Yeah, like what are some of like the best and worst of your experiences over that time, if you can think of
Oh
any?
yeah, I tell you one time. So Chris Castles used to
Yeah.
run the show, and it was Castro's Pub out in Bee Cave area.
Oh.
And so he decided he didn't want to run it anymore. So he handed it to me. He said, "Hey, you can be the host of the show." It was just like twice a month or something. So I'm driving out there, and actually it was close to where my girlfriend lives, so it was pretty nice. And I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. It's a small show, and I'll kind of learn how to, book and do
Yeah.
different things." Well, one of the nights there were maybe like 10 people there, and then the bunch of the comics are there, and one of the guys, he liked the show so much, he's like, "Listen, I'm opening up a $200 bar tab for you guys, and just like drink whatever." And then he
Hell
gave
yeah.
so there's some money out there, and so these guys were like, "All right, we're gonna drink up every penny of this,"
Hmm.
and that was very fun. I mean,
That's cool.
I'd like to do that again. I mean, that was very rare. I don't know if that guy just hit the lottery or something,
Oh,
or
he's
just
probably
what. But
just happy to help or whatever.
yeah. Well, there's another time again. I got a spot on a show. I was like not getting booked, and somebody goes, "Well, if you give me a ride to the show, I'll get you a guest spot."
There you go.
Oh, that sounds great. I'll do that.
Yeah.
So like just little stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah, I would like to. I would be a chauffeur for spots for sure. I could do that. I already like to drive,
well, yeah, just like I don't know. Everybody wants to get booked, so it's
but
like,
I honestly I have no material. So I have.
well, that's an interesting question.
a
Why did you take a break? You said you haven't been doing it in a while, but
I just have no energy. I don't know. I can't tell if I'm an introvert or an extrovert.
oh yeah,
Yeah, because
Maybe you're
by the
an
time,
ambivert.
like, I have energy to write and to
Mhm.
come up with material and to do all that stuff, but I don't have energy to, like, stay out all night waiting for my spot and then to go and do it. And then to do that night after night after night. Because, like, so much of comedy is the hang, which is a fun
Mhm.
part, right? But that's also like, um, it's not just time, it's energy. And so I feel like by the time I like wait 3 hours for my 3 minutes after writing for 3 hours previously, it was like that's all I had. I don't have anymore. Like, and especially at the room, like three people at the end of the night, your 30th time signing up with Kill Tony and not getting on, like eventually you just get burned out. It's like, well, because you at first you're like, I'm going to sign up and get on, right? And then you do that 10 times. You're like, well, it's just bad luck. And then you do that 20 times. And then you do that 30 times. You're like, well, I'm fucked. It's never going to happen. And so I think that is a little bit of what burned me out is just I don't have enough energy to write and come up with stuff and practice it and rehearse it and then to go wait 3 hours for 3 minutes. I need to be like, hey, every Tuesday at 7:30, you be here. You've got 3 minutes. And then that's how my brain works. Then I can build something around that and I can just know that that's going to happen and, that kind of a thing. But
Well, you should produce your own show then, because
right,
that's not how it
so I should put
works.
on my own show. Right, it isn't how it works.
Yeah,
And you do have to be selected.
yeah.
And you do have to like pay your dues, I guess.
Yeah,
is
but
how
how
people
many?
think of
How
it.
many? I mean, thousands and thousands of comics have done Kill Tony, and of that, how many have been like pulled up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, zero.
But
Never
that's not
happened.
that's not the point of
Kill Tony's a fucking sham. I can tell you right here, right now.
No.
Oh, it's a total
But
scam, Tony. It's a scam.
do you know the purpose of Kill Tony? You know?
Yeah, to put up his buddies.
Well, the purpose of Kill Tony is that he's an insult comic.
Well, it's an awesome show. I love the show.
But I'm saying he needs a steady stream of people to insult to keep sharp himself. You know?
Right, right.
So it's like he's getting something out of it, and then you as the comic are being advertised, so it's a good deal.
Oh, well, it's a great deal if you can actually get on, but you're never
Yeah.
going to get on.
Well,
I mean,
that's-
I don't know if you've been on, but
Yeah, I got on one time, and it
There
was
you go.
pretty fun, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't think like, okay, now this is where I'm gonna fire
Here-
off into Mars or whatever.
well,
Like,
here's what we need in the community. We need 5 Kill Tonys that are true bucket pulls.
hmm.
That's what we need. Not
Yeah.
fake bucket pulls, true bucket pulls.
But I mean, again,
Because it's such a good format. You got 1 minute, first of all, that's like a long time in front of a real audience.
Yeah.
So like, and then the fun part of that show is him roasting people.
yeah,
And like the interview part of it, that is the whole show. And that's the fun part. And the reason why Kill Tony is such a perfect format is because it's high value everywhere. It's high value for the comedian. It's high value for Tony or whoever runs it, and it's high value for the audience. But I think it's very replicable, and but maybe not. Maybe the reason it's so high value is because he's been doing it for 10 years, and he's like built this audience and this fan base, and that's how he gets draw. Because it's such a party every time. But I do call bullshit on those bucket draws. Those are fake as fuck.
yeah. I don't know about all that. I'm sure there's some system they've got there, but
Yeah, the system is 2 real polls, and if there's somebody I don't like, I'm pulling again.
yeah. But I think the main thing is like to view it in the right way. It's like as a
charitable way,
a
right?
novice like comic. That's an advertisement for you, and that's it. And that's good.
It's a huge opportunity, but it's kind of like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
You know?
But also, just getting on Kill Tony doesn't mean you're qualified to be anything, you know.
No, but I think the reason why everyone wants it is because it's such a
Well, it's a big platform. I mean.
big platform. Right. Yeah.
But like, it doesn't mean you're ready to be a comedian.
No,
you
no,
know.
it's not an indicator of anything.
Yeah.
And there is, to be fair to him, he is trying to put, first of all, people are paying for these tickets,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's a real business here. And he's trying to put on a good show. But I do think it's also just, it's the same thing in tech. Like what really matters for making money in tech doesn't matter how well you can code. It matters who you know. And it's like, but that's the whole world. The whole world is just who you know. What are they willing to do
But
for
so,
you?
in your view, like, what matters in comedy as far as getting ahead?
Well, at the end of the day, your hard work. At the end of the day, because
Sure.
people can smother you and they can put your face in the dirt and they can ruin your reputation and they can do everything they can to try to fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just life, whatever, right? You just have to keep on working.
Yeah.
And so what really matters is how much writing, how much performing, how much have you slogged through it all. And over the years, you can be successful, but it doesn't have to be that hard, and it doesn't have to be that crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it could be way better for everyone if only people were a little less spiteful, like a
I don't
little
know.
less.
I don't seem to get that.
Maybe I just have bad. I know I do have a bad attitude, and I'm a complainer and a victim and all that stuff.
You got the stinking thinking, as they call it.
Yeah. But at the
No.
end of the day, it's 100% work. It is 100% work. It's just some people have to work a lot fucking harder.
I don't know. I think there's like kind of a few things. There's like your working part is definitely essential. You have to
Yeah.
do that part. But then there's also are you easy to work with? Do people want to work with you because you're pleasant,
Right.
But then also nobody owes you anything. So like you got to put all this effort in. But then again, it's like people can tell if you're just out for yourself or if you're trying to
Build a community.
yeah, like I mean, there's things about like I'll use the Lucky Duck as an example. There's a lot of things about it that are really great for me as the host. I get a lot of visibility from doing that show. I get paid. I get to spend a lot of my times writing jokes. It's also a lot of work. I'm there every Wednesday.
It's impressive, man.
Yeah, I'm there from 6 to 2. Everybody complains about their spot incessantly. That happens. Some people hate me because I won't bump them, or I will bump them, or I'll bump this guy or whatever. And then they get up there and they complain, and it's all this stuff. So like, why do it? Well, again, I'm benefiting from it. It's not just, I mean, but it's also great for the community, So like every single person who goes up there, it's harder to find a mic that's got more legitimate stage time for an open mic person
than Lucky Duck.
Yeah, and it's not always a good crowd, but like there are always times during the night where there's a legitimate crowd there and you can get a real read on your set. I'm not to say all, but many other open mics are not like that.
Right.
It's unusual in like almost every factor.
Yeah.
And like, it's great, but it's also like my privilege and it's my burden. Like, I feel like I have to have it go. I don't think I could hand it off to somebody.
Right.
I just wouldn't feel like, I don't know. I have a certain feeling about how it should be run, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, it's your show. Like, you've been doing it so long at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people would say, why even, like, they don't view hosting as an important thing, or they don't.
The hosts are like the people we should all be grateful to.
Sure.
like,
but it's sort of thankless and like.
Yeah, right. I can see it being.
But also, a
thankless.
lot of people view that as that's the rung I need to get over as fast as possible. I want to get right to being the opener or the feature. Who cares about the hosting? That's not important to me.
I never really considered that as like a progression, but it does make sense. And you do have to open your own mic.
Yeah.
But like, it would be nice if it didn't have to come down to like, I don't know, being selected. Well,
okay, then like, why do people want to select you?
Right, because you bought them a drink or gave them a ride, or you're genuinely affable, or they want to. I mean, I don't know why I always have to start out with the snarkiest comments, but the real reason is because they just like working with you.
Sure, those are all important things. I mean, like, obviously your talent is like a factor, but it's not the factor.
It isn't.
Do you even want this person around? Like, there's people that just like, do you want to spend an hour with them?
Right.
Like, no, so then they have trouble, or it doesn't matter how talented they are.
It doesn't. I mean, it's the same thing with hiring somebody for a job. Like, who do you hire for a job? People that you enjoy spending time with. That's who you hire with it for a job.
Well, and two, it's like, if I host an open mic, I sometimes will get a preference on a spot on another open mic, but that's sort of it. That's sort of at least in Austin. I don't know how it works everywhere else, but so then if you are hosting a showcase, there's like an exchange. You kind of like trade spots,
Yeah, I mean, I think my general like gripe is that the audience is a guarded resource.
Sure.
And people know it's so valuable. And they use that resource to extract like political value and I don't know, just things that have nothing to do with comedy, nothing to do with the art form.
Sure.
And that is the kind of stuff, that grift that you get in any industry. It just sucks that if anything, it's like worse here than it.
But for there to be an audience of people to perform in front of, somebody had to put in some effort to get them there.
And that's valuable.
So then how do you distribute that?
That value, like they get a margin on that value, and that's their business.
Right. So how are you as the producer or the host distributing that?
Yep.
You obviously have to have a certain minimum level of talent for
Yep.
them to want to come back. But then beyond that, it's like,
You're gonna help out the people that helped you
yeah,
out.
who did me a favor?
Yes.
Who's somebody who's pleasant? Who was
Right.
given a recommendation by this
Boom.
person who I think is good or whatever?
Totally.
If you're an unknown to them, like I have people come up to me and they're like, "Hey, I was on blah blah blah, so put me up right now," and I'm just like,
You want to say hi first?
"Who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know you." And like, maybe you are very talented, but like, to you just come in and try to ramrod me on this thing, like I don't
Yeah.
know you anything, and
Right.
it's like, but that's how they go around and do it. They're like, "Okay, I'm a level 7 comic or something, and you're like a 2, so
Yes.
then
Yes.
I get whatever I want." It's like,
Yes.
well, you can get out of here.
Right.
I don't have to handle it. It just gets tiring because again,
It does. It does.
as the producer, I put in my effort because I, of course, want to perform in front of people also.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're just like trying to big time you or something. I'm like,
Right.
this is an open mic. Like, what, none of this matters at all. Like zero. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, and but also the people who complain the most about, I'll go, hey, do you want to be the guest host? And oftentimes they do, and then they figure out that it can be a pain.
Yeah. Yeah. That complain about their sets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
or
all
their
this, like you
spots.
say, it gets away from the art and all that.
The actual art, yeah, right. Like the art is what matters. The art is, I guess, saying what you think, bringing
Yeah.
people into your world, and like, this is what I think. Here's how I think it's working.
Yeah, but it's a team sport,
Yeah.
So like you gotta get people to. That's why you see people forming cliques and stuff. Like
Yeah.
you can't do it by yourself.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But so much of life is that way. Maybe it's even better that way.
But
Maybe
if you
it's
think
even better.
everybody's out to screw you, it's gonna be harder.
Yeah. I mean, and also you're going to put that energy into the universe and kind of make it true by just like whatever you put out there echoes back.
Well, and like I got the position of being the bartender a couple nights a week at the East Austin. It wasn't because I'm the funniest. It's because I'm easy to work with. I'm reliable. I'm pleasant. And so then they're like, okay, he's going to be here every week, and that's great. So then I get rewarded with a little bit of stage time and I get paid a little bit.
Yeah.
I think of it like a lot of the stuff's that way. And then you'll get comics who are like a lot funnier, but like they'll call in or they'll be hard to work with or they're flaky or just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine. But like, this is a business. Like
Right.
if I have to book you on a spot and you don't show up because you're dropping my show for some better show.
That's the last time that booking is offered.
Yeah. And it's like, but I don't know. It's strange.
It's an amazing thing to be able to even be a part of the community. And so like there's no real complaining, but hey, like my job is to call out bullshit when I see it.
Sure.
And I call out bullshit on some of these mics.
Right.
Like it's not is exactly presented as how it is.
But even as an open mic, like let's say the Sanjak Saloon, I'm there hosting that one every couple weeks. Like, what do I owe you as the comic coming through the door? Nothing. It's an open mic. Like the bar has it again because they're selling drinks.
Right.
I got to have a certain number of comics come in there to make it an event.
Right.
And beyond that, that's it. So like,
so how would you hope that things like change and evolve? Because you're like OG in Austin for sure. 3 years, like everyone here is like 2 years.
That's pretty funny.
It is funny.
Well, I guess I'm an OG of the new wave.
Right.
There was a whole scene prior to me moving here.
Totally. I've been coming here since 2012.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a funny title as an OG.
I mean, of Austin, like comedy, most people are here for, I think, less than 2 years.
Yeah, I suppose. Then they move or something. But well, and then there's that also idea that, okay, so you get to a certain level of proficiency and then you got to move to New York or LA,
Not anymore, though, I don't feel.
Yeah, and I kind of feel that way too. Like, I feel like I'd like to stay in Austin.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like it here. And like, I'm not even to the point where I would even consider moving. I mean, skill-wise, but like, I don't know. It's fun. It's fun producing shows, and it's fun. Like I don't know if you've been to the tag mic that I do.
I have. That is a great mic. I got a bunch of tags off it.
Right. And so like I created that for my own benefit.
Yeah.
But it benefits other people. So like my objective with that is we're all going to get better at writing.
Yes.
And the like externality of that is there will be some good jokes that come out of it, but that's not the point of it. The point is that we're all going to get better at writing. Yeah. But a lot of people don't. they're just like, I just want to do my 5 minutes. Like,
Well, and I think that's a reason you get a lot of these, a lot of respect in the community is because you are putting those type of things on where it's very clear that this benefits everyone. Like Lucky Duck, very clear that benefits everyone. Tag
true.
writing mic, very clear that benefits everyone.
Well, and like Candace, I think she set up the tag or the banana phone because she's like, I get heckled a lot or whatever. This is an important component of comedy, and I want this to be the thing we're going to work on.
Yeah.
So, are you going to be sharp? Are you going to be on your toes? If somebody yells something out, are you going to crumple? Or are you going to do it? So, like, she sort of said, okay, this is a thing that's really important. Let's focus on that exclusively. And my thing was with the tag mic is, okay, nobody's writing enough. I'm not writing enough.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
I am
So, like,
not.
let's all just focus on the writing specifically.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was doing stories with no punchlines for like a year easily. And then I'm like, well, okay, I don't even know how to write a punchline.
Yeah.
And I'm calling myself a comic, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to do a mic where we just write punchlines. That's it.
Yes.
And I was like, nobody will come to that. So then I was like, okay, it's got to be a mic. People want to do their time. That's all they care about. But we can have it be a writing thing.
I see. Yeah. Right.
Because if I just said, okay, we're going to meet up for an hour and we're going to write jokes, people be like, nope.
I would do that. Like
Most people won't, or they'll
Really?
come once. Yeah, I've tried.
I've done. Yeah. I guess I did try to organize a couple of those
Yeah.
back in the day.
Well, and
Comics are lazy.
I haven't found out a way to make the writing process with people, like sitting down, productive.
Right.
Like when I sit down and write with somebody, we end up just kind of chit chatting.
Totally.
And then I was one of the writers for the Good Evening News, and so we were writing topical jokes, and people would just come in there and just shoot the shit, and then nothing got done. It seemed like.
Yeah.
So like I feel like if I'm by myself, I can be productive, but I haven't figured out how a writer's room even functions because I'm like, how do they stay on task, or how do they even
I doubt
get?
they do. I think it's
Yeah,
probably a lot of shooting the shit.
But I'd like to crack that because like it seems like it would be more productive with more
Right.
brains, but in some ways it's not. Like,
I've wanted something similar for two things: one for comedy, one for YouTube.
yeah,
For comedy, I just want to be able to throw into a chat. What is this premise? Like, does this have legs? For YouTube, I want to be able to throw in title, thumbnail. Would you click on this? Or how about this versus that? Because you
Well-
need a little indicator from people, a little feedback, whether that thread is worth pulling.
Well, and that's another thing about the tag mic that's really special, I think, is because when you just give somebody a tag, they're just like, nope. And then if you ask somebody for feedback, they probably weren't paying attention. But like in that specific mic, it's like, okay, I'm going to do my material and I'm specifically asking you to tag it.
Yes.
And, you know, people are a little less uptight about, because I've given people tags for jokes before and they've just told me to go, you know, go fuck myself. Like,
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And
I'm so like, that's somebody doing work for you. That's like being handed money.
but there again, they're like, hey, I'm the artist and I'm doing this and I don't want to, and that's fine. But like, well, I'm starting to gain a little reputation as somebody who can do the writing. So it's not as hard. But in the beginning, I would be like, hey, this is a good idea. And they'd be just like, who are you? Like, get away from me. Like, where this is like, we're specifically going to do that. And everybody's open to giving away the recommendations. And then nobody's uptight about taking them either. You know?
Taking and giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I hear people use the tags I wrote for them, I'm really thrilled because I just think, okay, well, that's a great joke.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll write a joke generally that I can never use in my material, so that I'm happy that somebody's using it. Like, and it feels good. I mean,
One of my most consistent things I ever said was, I have RSF. That's resting serial killer face. I think I got that tag from your mic.
Yeah, probably. You know, it's like, and it's great.
Yeah.
We can only think of the things that are with our own mind in a certain way.
And that's actually the best part of the tag mic is you get all of these other brains thinking about it, things you wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
So how do you get that? Like, what does the Austin comic community need that would make all of us more successful, better? Like, what do we want? Here's what we want. We want to get paid to do
sure.
our art. And the art is whatever. It's just, it's very amorphous, but speaking in front of people and sharing your ideas.
Well, and if you're getting, a lot of the comics, at least locally, are not making enough money to live. I mean, just from doing shows.
But I feel like there is enough of an audience and there is enough of a talent, and we just got to bring those together in a way where people can extract that value. And that's what's really hard is we have a lot of open mics.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a ton of paying audiences.
Well, there's more independent showcases now than ever, I think.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
so
so.
there
They
is
just got to
money.
get more of a reputation, maybe.
But really, the people who are making the money, at least in the smaller shows, are the producers, and then the comics are getting paid a little bit. But it's usually, I don't think it's enough to live on, you know. So like if you were gonna make it just on doing comedy, you'd have to be producing your own shows. I mean,
Be awesome. Be awesome.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's more about like for the community, like what would help the most number of people create this world that they're trying to build. Like, is there a Discord server where everyone should go and hang out and then we're all just like chatting in it all day? Or I don't know, there's lots of hangouts, there's lots of meetups, but it doesn't seem like too many comics are very organized. And like you say, like if we do set up a writing session, we're not actually going to write. We're going to get high and just talk shit, you know?
Yeah, like that's not productive, or at
Right.
least so I haven't figured out a way to make those productive. That is something I think about a lot though, because
Yeah,
again, you get the brains together and you think,
exactly.
okay, we got 6 really funny people, we're gonna come up with something that's amazing, and you don't come up with anything.
Yeah.
So like even when I'm working on a sketch for somebody, I won't sit down and write the thing with them. Like they're writing it or I'm writing it. If we sit down and do it, we're not gonna get anything done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but like, yeah. But I guess I would say like, as far as people making it money wise, they should produce their own shows.
Really? So you can make money producing your show. I don't actually know what those words mean. Can you walk me through that?
Oh yeah, okay. So like I had a show at Indian Roller. So that was in South Austin. It's a small bar show and it was a showcase. So the bar paid to have the show. And then I
The
would
bar paid you to have the show.
yeah.
So they're giving you money because that will bring in drinks.
Right. So they're like think about this. Okay, so if the drinks were $3, you wouldn't need any entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay. So what it is the cost of a beer is like $6.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get a espresso martini or something, it's like $12.
Right.
So why does a person want to pay that?
Yeah,
Well,
they're sipping on it while being entertained.
well, they're like, yeah, okay. If I'm gonna spend $12 on this, I better be getting something
Yeah.
on top of it. So then they have entertainment. So like trivia is a one that I do, and then there's like karaoke. There's like music, live music. There's comedy. You know, you can do any of that stuff. So then the bar will pay for the show.
And what does it mean to pay for the show?
They'll write me a check.
Damn.
So like you can have a ticketed show where you're getting your money from the paying, you know, people are watching it, or you can just have them pay you.
Oh, that's what you want to do every time.
But the thing is, the amount of money you get is lower. So like there's a difference. Like if I have a paid showcase from a bar, it's going to be the same amount pretty much forever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if the show's good or bad. Doesn't matter if people show up or whatever. It's just going to be one amount. So like if you have a ticketed show, if nobody shows up, then you're not making anything.
Gotcha.
But if a lot more people show up, then you could make more. You know what I mean?
But the cool thing about putting on a show is it's one of those things that you can build up over time, and you, as long as you're really consistent, it's at the same time and the same place and the same everything every single time.
Yeah.
Then it gets like to become a hang, and it gets to become known, and
Yeah.
you get repeat.
Well, and just to give you some numbers, like so I did the Indian Roller show every Thursday. Started at 10:30 and it went till whenever we felt like quitting. So the bar would pay $150. That's what they would pay.
Okay.
So I would split it in half. I would say, okay, I'm going to book 5 comics. They're each going to do 10 minutes. Everybody's getting $15.
Okay.
Then I'm going to spend $15 to $20 on Instagram ads. And I'm going to use that to promote the show. And then I'm going to keep like $60. And then also the bar gave us a certain number of drink tickets. So I used to get 10 drink tickets and I would give those to the comics. Then I would ask for tips. If there's any tips, that would all go to the comics.
That's awesome.
Obviously the comics not getting a lot of money, but they're getting like $20, $15, and then they do their 10 minutes. And then, so yeah, you'd get $60 to be the producer and the booker and the host is how I did it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that $60 is like more like $600 in the world where you're not enjoying what you're doing for work.
But also you got to think, okay, I gave myself a 10-minute spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as the host, I could do time at the end if I wanted or in the middle or whatever I wanted. So like I was giving myself like 20 minutes a week.
And you paid a bunch of comics to go, you know, like that's not going to hurt.
Yeah. And so then I would also, so like imagine I'm giving myself 80 minutes of stage time every month. And then plus, so what I started doing is the 5 comics would go who I booked. If there was a guest coming from out of town or something, I usually wouldn't pay them. They'd just like go up. And then after the show was over, I just had like an open mic at the end. So people would like, and I wouldn't say anything to the audience. Like whoever the book people were, they'd go. And then after that, it was just whoever wanted to do spots, it would just do spots.
That's awesome.
And that wasn't necessary, but like, again,
It's giving back.
but this is this isn't like a real show even. This is like somewhere between an open mic and a showcase. It was like a workout showcase kind of.
Yeah, that's cool though. Like we need a lot of those layers, and we need a few good shows that are really like Kill Tony.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Kill Tony's like up here. I mean, imagine he's spending the money to have that produced. There's multiple people filming it, the venue, there's all this stuff that's like out of the reach of a lot of
Totally.
comics. But
that he's 10 years into it. Like there's
Right.
no way that it started that way.
But I'm saying any comic could walk into a bar and get a showcase going or an open mic.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, because all these bars have the same problem. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What's going on?
Huh. They're still paying for staff, but nobody's drinking.
Right. They got the staff. They've got the bar. They're paying for the building. They're paying for the electricity, whatever it is. So they can't just have a dead night, especially in Austin. The rents are high, So if you walk in there and you're like, what are you doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? And like, we're not doing nothing. You're like, well, you want to do something? You're like, yeah, that sounds good. And then you tell them, well, I'll do comedy. And they're like, okay, I don't need to hear anymore. I mean, that's basically it. Like, I mean, look how many bars there are here too. They're competing against each other.
Yeah.
They can't just not have something,
Yeah. So more shows, that would be helpful. I mean, it's pretty cool as it is, the community out here, because lots of people come in from out of state, they hang out. It's pretty easy to meet comics. I mean, you just hang out at the creek and you'll meet some people. And so it's pretty fun. Well, what else do people need to know about Alden Schaub? About what you're into, doing out here in Austin?
I don't know. I mean, I just like trying to do it like everybody else, But
yeah,
I would say I just like writing, outside. But like, I don't know. It's really cool to be down here. Like, I'm really happy I can just do trivia and comedy for a living, and that's great. I mean, I don't know.
I really feel like that puts you in the top 1% of like lifestyle people.
Well, and I'm not like getting rich. I mean, but I'm
making
making enough where I can pay all my bills, and it's great, But then also I spend time reading. I've been trying to exercise more. I've been doing the keto diet. I don't know.
Oh yeah, do you have any health and fitness kind of goals or?
Oh yeah, I'd like to lose some weight, obviously.
Oh, yeah?
But
Okay.
as far as feeling good, I feel pretty good. And like, it's getting a little too cold to swim in my pool there. But I've been doing kettlebells and I've been like walking and stuff. But
yeah, man.
Yeah,
The best thing I ever did was I was about 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best thing I ever did, was kind of change that stuff up. But it's such a grind because it has to come on top of everything else you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to do your trivia, you have to do your comedy, you have to do everything that
Well,
you're normally doing.
I like to say I get to,
Yeah, you get to, I mean, well, it is true.
Well,
but like you get to is like kind of like you're being paid to do it or whatever. It's like part of your lifestyle. Like, I don't know.
Not really. Like you say, I don't have the energy to do the writing and do this and this and that, and then I get up to the mic and I'm like, oh, this is. See, I never have that feeling, and I don't know if it's a genetic defect or something, but like, I'll get to the trivia, and I've never had a night where I go out there and be like, oh, I'd rather be doing whatever. I'm just like, this is what it's Monday. I'm gonna be at the Barton Springs Saloon, and this is great. Like, and the same with the mics. Like, I get there, and maybe it's a little boring or something, but I never in the back of my head say,
That's true. Yeah.
But then that's like do you listen to any like motivational stuff? Like so like Zig Ziglar was a big motivational speaker, and he would say like commitment plays heavily in everything. You make the commitment. So like when I started doing comedy, again, I did all that reading and I decided like, okay, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it for 10 years and you're gonna be poor and it may not work out in the end. At the end, you may actually have nothing. How does that all sound? And I was like, well, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So then so in my head, I made the commitment that I'm going to do it. And so then that has really made me very free because like, I don't have as many doubts, I guess. Like,
well, there is no doubt. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Right. And like, again, I set the goal of I can be an entertainer for a living and I've almost reached that now. So like everything beyond that is just like really great, you know.
Yeah.
Where other people are like, I feel like that's where like a lot of the bitterness comes in because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I'm not whatever. Like,
I have a little bitterness already. I can
yeah. And
imagine
so
if
like,
you gave me 3 more years, I'd be real fucking bitter.
so like you can erode that, you know, with like how you frame the success. So like you could say, okay, well, like what would be your, like if you had a goal you're going to try to hit in 6 months, it would be like,
I've only ever had one goal with comedy. I want to be on the road, going to clubs where nobody knows who I am, and saying words in front of people. I don't want anything else. I don't want to be on Netflix. I don't want to be on a boat. I don't want any of that.
that's very attainable.
Yes.
But then, so then what's the goal? Like, what's like an intermediate goal? Like I have a goal and it's written in my wallet. I want to do a clean comedy show for a company for $1,000. So I have that as my goal. What does that mean? Okay, that means I have to go out and find somebody who wants to buy that, and I have to have the product. So I actually have to have probably 15 minutes of clean material.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to find 5, maybe 4 or 5 comics who can do 10 or 15 minutes of clean material, which is like difficult, but I do have a list of people. Also, I have my own PA. So like that goal is not that far away. You know.
It seems impossibly far away.
Why though?
Impossibly. I don't know. Like it just.
I've done corporate trivia shows that I've got paid that much. And so like to me that's just a small lateral move, you know.
Maybe it feels far away because I just have not been putting in anywhere near the amount of time or attention that it takes to be successful in that arena. Sure. Partially just because I've been doing YouTube and other things. I mean, I spend my time not terribly, you know. I am a self-proclaimed comic, so I probably do too much drugs and have too many indulgences.
That won't hold you back in comedy. You know?
Yeah, that's why I need to be a comic. It holds you back in tech, that's for sure.
But I'm saying, like, let's say somebody walked through the room, or let's say somebody walked in here and it's some famous comic who's on the road. He could just take you now.
I know, it could happen anytime. It never has.
But so I'm saying that idea of being plucked is like challenging because again, right. Like you're putting your hopes into like that you're going to get noticed by some individual.
Well, that is true. But also nobody can pluck you if you don't have 15 minutes. You know, like
right. You got to have the goods.
You got to have the product. That's a good way to think of it.
Yeah, like you got to have the product. So like if they say, "Okay, Caleb, today, hey, I want to take you on the road. Let me hear your best 15." And you're like, "Well, I've got 4."
Yeah.
It's like, "Okay.
I've got a loose 2."
Yeah, so like so they're like, "Well, okay, well then, you know, call me in a year or something."
Yeah.
So like I have this idea I want to do these clean shows. Okay, well I have a certain amount of clean material that's suitable. But then it's like it is challenging because not everybody wants to do that. But it's a goal I have, so like I'm working toward it. And like for me to get that to work, so I've got okay, I want to have a pool of clean comics so I can draw on for these shows which will pay more.
Yeah.
Well then it would behoove me to set up a clean comedy showcase. Totally. Because then that's going to be that's where I'm going to draw my pool for these corporate shows.
Right.
So instead of being like, hey, do you have clean material? And they're like, well, why would I even do that? And I'm saying, well, I'm hoping to have a show where you can get paid nicely. They're like, well, I don't see it. Where is it? Like, where's the incentive, you know?
Yeah.
So my thing is, okay.
You got to build the path to it.
Yeah. So I'll have a clean showcase that'll pay a little bit and it'll get people motivated. And then from that group, I'm going to take and book and do the ones that are going to pay more, you know?
Right.
But I have to set all that up for myself to even be able to enjoy it, you know.
Yes.
So like, but I'm willing to do it because again, my goal is I want to do these clean corporate shows.
Do you think that'd be so cool though to like work on the road and just be going to like different clubs and like nobody knows shit about shit? You just go in, whoever's there is there. You're there like with other comics or whatever.
Yeah,
like that'd be freaking fun.
But that's not that far away, you know. Just to get on the road, you just got to have 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It seems complicated. But yeah, like a good path to it would be start your own mic. So then at least you're getting regular stage time. And even if you're not writing, you're going to like improv things and you're going to be accruing material and you're going to be on stage and comfortable.
Yeah.
From that.
Well, and also it'll open up more opportunities to get on other shows because you've got more
meeting more people. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of this guy, Sahil Bloom? I think his last name is Bloom. He has like a bunch of like wisdom tidbits, but one of the things that he said recently that I really liked is about how people have these black holes in their life. So like addiction, that might be a black hole, or drugs or video games or whatever. And he compared it Did you see Interstellar?
Hmm.
So in Interstellar, there's that gravity planet that they go down to, and it takes like all the time, and like it takes 90 years or whatever. And it's because it's next to this black hole that's just sucking in everything around it. And the reason in that movie they thought that planet might not be a good candidate for life is because not enough stuff could happen because everything was just being going into the black hole. And I thought that was a really good metaphor for life. Is like, what are the black holes that we have that are sucking in or sucking away the opportunities to get lucky?
Sure.
And if you're out there and you're doing a mic every single week, you're going to meet patrons and you're going to meet comics, and all of that is going to increase the surface area of luck that is possible. But if the opposite, you're sulking in your corner,
Yeah.
like, oh, nobody will give me the time. Why did I, like?
But think
And
about
that's
well,
a
think
black
about
hole.
this. Like, okay, you got this really nice camera and you got all this equipment here. You could say to somebody, "Hey, I'll come out and record the whole show,
Yeah.
but I of course want a spot." They'd say, "Great."
Yeah.
I mean, that's a way. You know what I mean? That's the same as giving somebody a ride or just
That's
any of
true.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Or you could say, "Hey, I'm gonna record people's specials for money." Well, then you get to meet him. Then you get to, oh, he was great to work with. Whatever.
Yeah, getting yourself integrated into a new industry is really important in
Sure.
whatever ways that you can do it.
Well, and two, if you get booked on a show, did you help promote the show? Did you try to post stuff? Did you try to get it out there for that other producer? That gets around too. Like who actually cares? At least I think. I mean,
I think so.
but if you're
yeah.
not gonna do that part of it, you just have to be so much more talented. Like it's like an impossibly more talented. Like
And even if you were the most talented guy in the world, if nobody wants to work with them, doesn't really matter.
yeah, it does. It makes things more challenging. Well, and the
Yeah.
two is it makes things unpleasant.
Right. Like everyone should just be enjoying the fact that none of us are factory workers.
Well, yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on a cherry farm. I've worked on factories, wineries. I've done like bartending, banquet bartending. I've worked at a ski resort, pawn shops, like, grocery stores. Like, I don't want to do that. That's like, well, okay. There's people who are like funny, okay, and then there's people who are like creative, and sometimes that overlaps. But like, I found out a lot of my drivers are from creativity, and that's a problem because if you're doing regular jobs, a lot of times there's no room for that.
Yeah.
It's not something they need. They just need you to do the job.
Yes.
And I got into trouble a lot because I was always trying to come up with like,
Right.
what if we do this thing or that thing? And they're like,
we don't want to hear a new idea.
like, who are you? And also, no, like, we
Mhm.
need you to just stand here and like watch this lift. Like, so in comedy, that can be rewarded, but you've got to focus it on something. Like, you don't have to be a creative person to be funny. And a creative person isn't funny. But if you're a funny, creative person, in some ways it's harder because you're like you're not using the tools the way everybody else is. Now, that can be good. You can come up with something really different, which can be really good, or something really different and it's really bad.
Right.
But like for me, I have to exercise that drive. Like, it's almost like I have an organ in my body that's like a creativity organ.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And if I don't expend the creative juice, it's like poisoning me.
Up. Yeah. It backs up.
For me, it's great. Comedy and the trivia and cooking. I feel like I really expend that juice or whatever.
Looks good. We should do a cook-off sometime.
Dude, I would be up for that. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Maybe in a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah, I'm probably only going to do keto for a couple more weeks, so I'll be able to eat pretty much whatever after that.
Hell yeah. I'm doing mostly keto right now. I do a little rice. But I've just always enjoyed like having lower carb and higher protein and higher fat, actually.
Yeah.
I just feel better.
I feel pretty good on it. One thing I've noticed is I'm a little bit spacey. I've tried to shore that up with some like MCT oil and more salt and stuff, but I just I have the memory of a hummingbird, and I have to write more stuff down. I noticed. But
how long have you been in keto or like been in it?
I've been doing it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and I've been in keto.
Okay, so you're pretty well adapted.
Yeah, I think I pretty much. I'm testing myself with the piss strips and stuff, and yeah, so I'm like in the kind of the middle range or whatever.
Well, you're looking great, man. I've loved hanging out with you and
Yeah.
talking to you, and I just think you're doing a real service for the comedian community out here, putting up with people like me who complain.
Putting up.
And I've
But
got a lot
again,
of shit to say, but I want to say it, and I'm gonna say it, and hopefully people will be patient with me. Because I'm really not complaining. Like, things could be better, but the fact is, it's an amazing community,
oh yeah,
amazing hangs, amazing people involved. There's some real assholes, but even they're fucking hilarious or whatever. Like,
sure.
they're funny, and so they're good to have around. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
And where should people find you? How do they connect with you? Where do you want to direct people? Anyone listening?
Oh yeah, I'll go like, huh.
Yeah.
Probably Instagram's the easiest. The Mob Schaub, the trivia one is Unknown Trivia, and yeah, every Wednesday I'm at the Lucky Duck, so that's where I'm hanging out.
Any comics visiting Austin, you want some time, hit up
Oh
Alden and check out the Lucky Duck. Tons of cool comics there, and
yeah,
it's always a fun hang.
I tell everybody if whoever you are, you get 4 minutes at the Lucky Duck. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's very
Also,
good.
I'm gonna be opening up my farts for sale soon, so that'll be something different. Yeah.
Dude, you need a fart merch store. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do them for like $3 or something. But
There you go.
the problem I'm running into is I have to make more original ones. So
Mm.
I'm actually gonna be getting some time at the Creek. They have that new studio, so I'll be in there making Foley farts.
Oh yeah, I saw a little of that. That's awesome. Yeah, man. Like
Something different.
put them out there. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
So people find you on Instagram, anything else, YouTube or anything else?
As far as trying to get a hold of me, now probably Instagram's the easiest. I think that's where I get most of the messages there. Other than that, I don't know. Just have fun, I guess.
Yeah, let's have fun. Let's engineer some farts. See you guys.